The first time I met Gabby, she wasn't even trying to hide what she was. I was standing at the reception desk for my final interview at a prop trading firm. Fresh out of university, suit still stiff, resume printed on good paper, like that mattered. The office looked expensive in that sterile corporate way. Glass walls, rows of desks, trading screens everywhere, and that atmosphere of people trying to look calm while money and ego fought for oxygen. I gave my name to the receptionist. She smiled politely and started searching for my file. Then the door to a private office swung open and Gabby stepped out like she owned the building. She snapped at the receptionist for some documents. The receptionist tried to finish checking me in first. Gabby cut her off instantly. "No, now." The receptionist hesitated just a second, then hurried off. Gabby looked me up and down like she was deciding whether to crush a bug or ignore it. "You one of the new ones?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, honestly excited. "Don't be excited," she said flatly. "I don't think you'll make it." I blinked. "Why?" "You're too soft." There was a pause where she just stared at me, enjoying the discomfort. Then she leaned in slightly, lowered her voice like this was a friendly tip, and said, "I can put in a good word for you, if you give me something." At first I thought she was joking, the way some people joke to see how much they can get away with. I laughed once, awkwardly. "That's funny." "I'm serious," she said. "You give, you get in. You don't give, I'll make sure you don't even reach the interview." I stared at her, trying to process what was happening, and I said the stupidest, simplest thing possible. "No." Her eyes hardened. Then she did exactly what she promised. She made me sit in a corner of the reception area, where I was barely visible, like I was a problem she'd already solved. I could hear the receptionist dealing with other candidates, could hear names being called, could hear doors opening and closing, and I waited. 15 minutes passed, then 20. I realized she'd buried my paperwork. She was trying to make me miss my slot so she could tell everyone it was my fault. The only reason I actually got called in was because the branch head, my future boss, recognized me from a career day at my university. We'd talked briefly back then, and he'd seemed genuinely sharp and decent, the kind of leader who didn't need theatrics to feel powerful. He came out himself, scanning the reception. "Where's his resume?" he asked. Gabby smiled like butter wouldn't melt. "He never sent it." The receptionist hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. I thought I saw it." And that's when I stood up and walked over, because I'd had enough of being treated like I didn't exist. The receptionist looked at me, then at Gabby, then blurted out, "It was in the trash." Silence. Every head in that space turned toward Gabby. Her smile stayed on her face for a fraction of a second too long, then snapped into something colder. From that moment on, she hated me with the kind of focus that doesn't fade. Not because I'd done something to her, because I hadn't, but because I'd embarrassed her without even trying. And for someone like Gabby, humiliation wasn't a feeling, it was a declaration of war. Prop trading firms thrive on churn. That's the business model no one advertises during recruitment. They bring in a wave of new grads every few months, throw them into a high-pressure training pipeline, and keep only the few who don't break. The firm I joined hired people quarterly. The office had space for around 120 traders, but it was never full. Out of 20 recruits, maybe 5 made it through the first 3 months. Out of those, maybe 1, sometimes none, made it through the next phase. When I started, the branch had existed for 2 years, and I could count the real, long-term employees on one hand. Everyone else was either new, training, or 1 bad month away from being gone. And despite all that, I loved it. I loved markets. I loved the brutality of it, the clarity. You either performed or you didn't. My branch head, again, the decent one, had a simple rule. If you hit your goals for the day, you could ask to leave early and he'd let you. He treated adults like adults. He cared about output, not control. Gabby was the opposite of that philosophy in human form. Officially, she was HR or operations, one of those roles with administrative authority, but no real trading expertise. In practice, she was a micromanager so extreme it stopped being micro and became nano. She wanted control down to the level of your breathing rhythm. She restricted which websites we could access. For traders, people whose job depended on information flow, her approved list was laughable, basic corporate pages and nonsense. Anything useful required permission. She scheduled mandatory meetings at the worst possible times, always when the branch head was out of the office, so nobody could override her. Meetings where traders couldn't step away to check positions. Meetings where people lost money because she wanted to feel important. And she stole my lunch. Not once, not twice. Enough times that I knew it was deliberate. I confronted her directly one day because I'm not subtle. She stared at me like I'd asked her to explain gravity, then dismissed me with a look that said, I can do whatever I want. So I started bringing 2 lunches, one for me, one for the parasite, and I tried to focus on trading. Gabby had a husband and 2 kids. She was attractive, polished, and she fed on attention. Men came to pick her up for long lunches. Men waited for her in the evenings. But Thursdays were different. Thursdays, her husband came with the kids. Family day, the wholesome performance. I noticed it, filed it away, and went back to work. 2 months after I started, my branch head left. Not the company, just our office. He moved into a larger regional role. I heard something about him going back to India for a wedding, but the details didn't matter. What mattered was this: he was gone. And without him, Gabby's influence expanded like toxic gas. We didn't have anyone else with the required experience to formally replace him. So headquarters started searching externally. In the meantime, Gabby became the de facto leader of the branch. Despite having futures market knowledge roughly equivalent to a confused child, the first thing she did with that new power was petty. She delayed my promotion. In this firm, you move from trainee to probation to full trader. Promotions were based on performance metrics, consistency, discipline. I was good. Not I think I'm good. I was producing. I was near the top of my cohort. When the first evaluation came, she promoted people she liked. She left me and 1 other guy stuck as trainees. She fired 4 others, and it was obvious this wasn't performance-based. This was revenge for the trash can incident. I told myself to be patient. I kept trading. I kept studying. I asked the remaining senior traders for guidance. I even kept in touch with my former branch head for advice when I could, because he'd always been fair and he knew my work ethic. Then the next evaluation came, and again, no promotion. By then, a whole new wave of trainees had been hired, people I was outperforming, people who were still on simulator accounts while I was trading real capital, people who literally came to me for help. And still, I was kept down. At that point, it stopped feeling like a delay and started feeling like a deliberate attempt to trap me, make me do the work, generate profit, but deny me the status and pay that came with it. So I did something I hate doing. I played politics. I went to the 4 senior traders who'd actually survived long enough to be treated like gods in that office. I explained my situation carefully, without trashing Gabby directly, because I wasn't trying to start a war. They already knew. They'd seen my results. They agreed to help. And a month later, Gabby promoted me to probation. And not because she wanted to, because she still wasn't confident enough to openly challenge the people who actually generated revenue for the branch. For a moment, I thought that was it. I thought the power balance had corrected itself. I was wrong. 2 months later, another evaluation, and Gabby blocked me again. By then, people from my original group were being promoted to full trader status, even though some of them weren't even trading real money. Others who barely understood risk management were suddenly full. Meanwhile, I was producing results close to the full traders. I was stable. I was disciplined. I was profitable. And I was still on probation. Another 3 months passed. Another evaluation. Same outcome. At this point, people from multiple waves had leapfrogged over me. I had trainees behind me, then beside me, then ahead of me. It was humiliating in a way that only makes sense if you've lived inside a system that pretends to be merit-based while quietly rewarding obedience. I went back to the senior traders again. We tried the same pressure play. This time, Gabby didn't even pretend to listen. She'd gotten comfortable. She'd gotten arrogant. She'd gotten drunk on the idea that she could stall whoever she wanted, for whatever reason she wanted, because nobody above her was watching closely. Her position was basically, I'm in charge. I can do what I want. So I contacted my former boss. By then, he'd risen. He was running operations for an entire region. He was no longer just our branch head. He had actual corporate weight. When he heard I was still on probation despite those results, he sounded genuinely stunned. And within days, an order came down from above. Gabby handed me my promotion letter with a face that looked like she was swallowing a live grenade. I remember thinking, good, that's over. She'll back off now. That was the moment I underestimated her, because for someone like Gabby, losing control doesn't make them stop. It makes them escalate. The next intake cycle, she hired a new trainee, Sue. Sue was brilliant in a pure IQ sense, quick math, fast pattern recognition. She could learn systems faster than most people could explain them. But trading doesn't only punish stupidity, it punishes emotional instability. Traders need two things, IQ and EQ. You can't train raw IQ, but you can train EQ, discipline, emotional regulation, resilience under stress. Without that, a smart person becomes a liability to themselves. Sue had the IQ. Her EQ was not there yet. Our office at that point had grown. Around 70 people total. Over 30 were full traders, including me, but only a small core actually traded live capital. The rest were simulator heavy or barely contributing. The branch's survival depended on a handful of people funding everyone else's existence, and I was one of the ones producing, which meant I was useful. And useful people are the ones Gabby wanted either controlled or destroyed. We had an informal mentoring system. Live traders were assigned groups of newer people who came to us for advice. I had about 4 mentees. Sue was one of them. One evening after the market slapped everyone around, Sue was sitting at her desk looking like she was holding her breath just to survive the next minute. We went over her trades. She'd made mistakes, but not fireable mistakes, normal early-stage stress mistakes. And then she broke. She started crying. Not a polite sniffle, a full crack. Tears, shaking hands, that kind of panic where your brain starts telling you you're about to lose everything even though you're just learning. I've been there. I felt that exact pressure. I didn't know what to do except try to be human. So I took her hand briefly and I patted her back in that awkward way men do when they don't want to cross any lines but also don't want to leave someone falling apart alone. I sat with her until she calmed down, and I went home thinking, okay, rough day. Tomorrow we reset. What I didn't know was that Gabby had seen it. And what I didn't realize, what I should have realized, was that Gabby didn't see human support. She saw a weapon. The next day, Gabby approached Sue. Later, I learned the exact offer. Gabby promised Sue she'd keep her job and get taken care of financially if she said I'd been inappropriate with her, that I'd been touching her, that I'd been harassing her. Sue agreed, and my life turned into a nightmare. It started with corporate discipline, an official reprimand, a hearing I wasn't even invited to because conveniently Gabby forgot to notify me. She was actively pushing for my termination. The only reason I wasn't fired immediately was, again, my former boss stepping in and demanding to know what the hell was going on. Even with that protection, I lost my quarterly bonus, and corporate forced me into these mandatory training sessions. It was the same 3-hour harassment video, over and over. The goal was obvious: wear me down until I signed a statement admitting guilt, so it could go into my permanent file. If I signed, Gabby would have exactly what she wanted forever: leverage. So I refused. And for months, my routine became a punishment schedule. I came in at 7 a.m. I watched the 3-hour video until 10 a.m. I refused to sign. Then I traded. Then I stayed late. I left at 11:20 p.m., day after day, week after week, almost 7 months. That isn't training. That's psychological torture with paperwork. And Gabby made sure I never forgot who controlled the pain. The day after the reprimand, she reassigned all my mentees. Then she emailed me that my trading limits were being slashed, down from a level that let me actually make money to something almost useless. It was like cutting off a runner's legs and then blaming them for not winning races. What she didn't understand was this: if you want to destroy someone, you don't half do it, because half destruction gives them time to plan. And I had plenty of time. I started documenting everything. The strange timing, the missing notices, The way procedures were forgotten only when it benefited her. The inconsistencies, the patterns. Then I noticed something else. When I went to lunch, my desk drawer had clearly been opened. My notebook shifted, pages slightly out of alignment. Tiny things you only notice if you're obsessive. I kept my daily trade ideas and setups in that notebook. The only people with access to that drawer key were me and Gabby. So I adjusted my routine and watched. And I caught it. Not directly, not dramatically. I saw enough to confirm it. Gabby was opening my drawer while I was gone. She was copying my trade plans, and she was feeding them to Sue. I didn't confront her. I let it continue. Because I wanted proof, not a confrontation. And once I saw the pattern, I brought two senior traders, two people I trusted, to my side. I told them exactly what I suspected and exactly what I planned to do. At that point, our branch was already borderline unprofitable. Too many people consuming resources, too few producing revenue. Headquarters had been considering shutting us down, and now with my trading capacity restricted by 90%, the branch was bleeding faster. So we applied pressure. My two friends reduced their trading volume massively, about half. I cut back too, within the constraints Gabby had forced on me. Within 3 weeks, corporate noticed, and suddenly we got an announcement. The head of operations and other corporate executives were flying in. Gabby thought it was for her. I knew it was because the numbers were screaming. The Thursday they arrived, I came in at 7 a.m. like I'd been doing for months. I watched the harassment video like a prisoner. I refused to sign, and I waited. Corporate leadership came in and immediately went into a closed meeting with Gabby. I knew I'd be called. It was inevitable. Someone would ask why a profitable trader had been stuck in a months-long harassment training loop. After lunch, I finally got the call. I walked into the meeting room with a folder full of documentation. Offer letter, promotion delays, rejected requests, timeline notes, everything. Not dramatic, organized. The executive asked the question I'd been waiting for. Before I could even answer, Gabby jumped in like she'd rehearsed it for months. She launched into a speech about me being uncooperative, about complaints, about how seriously the company takes misconduct, about how I was lucky they hadn't fired me. She was smiling subtly because she thought she'd won. And then I pulled out the letter Sue had been pressured into writing, the statement that the harassment claim had been orchestrated. Gabby's smile died in real time. Corporate immediately asked for Sue. Sue came in, shaking, and confirmed it. She said she was sorry. They terminated her on the spot and told her to wait at reception for final processing. I didn't feel sorry. I felt relief. Then I presented the second piece, the trade plan theft, the notebook access, the matching trades, the pattern. Gabby denied it instantly. Sue denied it too. Panic denial like a cornered animal. So my former boss, the operations head, logged into the systems and pulled the trading records. He compared Sue's positions with my setups and the timing, and it matched. He didn't need a confession. He had data. Sue was fired again, basically, because the first termination hadn't even finished processing. Corporate turned to me and offered restitution. My stolen bonus, withheld payments, plus additional compensation. At that point, I wanted two things. My name clean and Gabby finished. And then I saw it. Through the glass walls, walking into the office, Gabby's husband, with the kids, Thursday, family day. He was there to pick her up like everything was normal. I looked at Gabby and said calmly, "Your husband's here." Her face changed. Not fear, calculation. She excused herself and stepped out to tell him to wait. The corporate executives nodded like that was fine, and I did the thing I'd prepared. I sent the message. Everything I'd collected, her affairs, her private messages, the proof of multiple lovers, the complaints about her husband, the explicit conversations sent directly to him. I wasn't proud of that part, not even now. But at the time, I was past pride. I was running on months of humiliation and coercion, and that 3-hour video loop playing in my head like a threat. The office was open plan. Her office was glass. We didn't need to spy. We heard it. Her husband exploded, not in a quiet, let's discuss way, in the kind of rage that turns your body into a furnace. He yelled. She yelled back. The kids stood there in the middle of it, stuck between adult choices they never should have witnessed. And then he walked out with them. Gabby followed, still shouting. When she came back in and saw people watching, she realized what had happened, how public it all was, how fast her image was collapsing. For the first time, she looked like she didn't know what move to make. She was trying to figure out what part of her life could still be saved. It was too late. Within the hour, corporate terminated her. No soft landing, no transfer, no "we'll discuss." Fired. My former boss stayed in the branch temporarily because there was no one else stable enough to clean up what Gabby had done. He spent the next month helping transition leadership to the longest-serving, most competent person in the office. And even then, the branch struggled. Too many non-producing traders, too much overhead, not enough profit. Eventually, the branch closed. But the people who actually performed were transferred. London, India, other offices. The company didn't want to lose producers. As for Sue, she bounced around jobs until landing in an analyst/research role. She was smart. Trading just wasn't her lane. My former boss stayed with the company. We still message sometimes. And me? I took a break from trading. After all that, I needed to recover. I turned down relocation offers. I joined a friend's consulting firm for a while, just to breathe without waking up to screens and stress and manipulation. But the truth is, trading is the only job that ever felt like that perfect combination of brutal and satisfying. Sometimes I check Gabby's Facebook out of pure, morbid curiosity. These days it's full of posts like, "I'm alone because I'm too amazing," and every now and then, I almost feel sorry for her. Then I remember that 3-hour harassment video over and over for months, and my sympathy disappears because she tried to ruin my life. And in the end, she torched her own.
That's where the story ends. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this story in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and see you next time.